Hello, and welcome back to the Creating One podcast. And as we take the 2022 to a close, I'd like to take this time to not only thank you, those of you who have been on the journey with me for 6 months, as I rebranded my channel to focus on faith-based and faith-applied content. I want to give encouragement to old as well as new and those who are to come about being able to move on from events, things, and people that come into your life but might disrupt your peace, and how you're able to move on from those things and you'll be okay. So as I re-upload and reset the foundation for the next coming year, I want you to think about things that have not brought you peace, those things that have pulled at you, those things that have tried your patience. And I'm not talking about the things that have made you unhappy, because your happiness is your commission. It is your job and responsibility to bring yourself happiness. But I want you to think about the opportunities that await you, the way in which God can move for you if you just remove the stumbling blocks that are around you. It could be in life, love, a job. It could be a location, a desire to take up a new craft, start a new business, start a fitness program. Some friends and family of mine are on an extreme fitness journey. I don't want you to be afraid anymore. I want you to step out on faith. I want you to let faith be the map, the navigation tool, the inspiration that takes you to the place that God has for you. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. So I'm sitting here. It's Monday, June 20th, 2022. The continuation from Father's Day. Hope everyone had a wonderful Father's Day. And I definitely wanted to make sure that that we move on from the possibility of having to let go of things. And I want to use this as a reminder that when God speaks to you and He has a desire for you to do certain things, and you ask of Him to be able to do certain things, you have to remember that the things that you want assembled around you as you make that transition may not necessarily be what God has for you. It's sort of the same thing when you ask God to send you a husband, and then there's this handsome guy in your life, and you want and desire for him to be your husband. But when you ask God for the husband, and things start moving around in your life that make you uncomfortable, like that person says that they're busy and they want to date other people, etc., etc. You can't get angry at God, because at the top of all things is that He wants what's best for you. And He's never going to make you have to chase after something that isn't meant for you. So when we use and apply that example to what's currently taking place in my life with these things. Now, imagine my desire is to build a ministry where you guys globally can come and learn how to craft patterns for the various doll outfits that you guys have seen on my eBay, on my Instagram, or even in YouTube. That doesn't necessarily mean that God is taking you all out of the blessing. We can still achieve that. We may not be using or accessing all of the materials and services and goods that I have amassed for all these years. We might have to start over with one thing at a time. I'm telling you this because when I was packing up all of those things, I felt like there was just way too much going on. And I started to feel very overwhelmed. it's nice to have everything that you need. And I learned a lot, let me tell you. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about all of the things that are going to be let go. The cuts, the die cut machine, the Cricut machine, all of the vinyls and all of the synthetic leathers and all of the cottons and the polyesters, all of those fabrics. I mean, we're talking about thousands of dollars possibly in materials. And all of those things will be sacrificed. And it seems like, wow, you know, you're crazy creating one to let all of that go when all you got to do. But see, there is a thing called principle in the world. But then there's also in the world, in the space of God, where those things don't matter. And I am in a space right now where I'm feeling freer without those things. And I don't mean to disrupt what I originally planned and what I originally desired and prayed for, you know, through God for, in order to do in this ministry. But there are other things. There's also a cooking component. There's also a life lessons in building this village. And I wanted to do all these things, and all of these things can still come. I just don't want you all to feel some kind of way that I let you down, or that I'm getting in the way of what I had desired to do. Those things come. They just come in sometimes a different time. They come in a different format. Even say, for example, I came into sewing clothes and creating clothes for 18-inch dolls in order to start to assess and investigate and figure out what kind of materials work best for shoes. Because in actuality, shoes was the original reason why I got into this. Clothes are very beautiful and wonderfully made out there. That doesn't mean that I didn't have an interest in making 18-inch doll clothes, because I have been so inspired to do some really wonderful things with clothes, being inspired by the clothes that adult humans wear, children wear, things I see in magazines, looking at other patterns and, you know, reconfiguring those patterns, and, you know, just getting inspired from stuff that I see hanging on a clothes rack, that I see people wearing out in the general public. Just inspiration everywhere. But the whole purpose was to make shoes. And so as I started to think about where was this originally going when we all got started, it was to make shoes. So I was having a conversation with my cousin, who's a chef, by the way. Her name is Chef Jessica. If you happen to see her, give her a shout out. She makes some of the most delicious food. She is a certified chef. Okay, getting back to what I was saying is that the first thing that I really wanted to teach you guys was, of course, whatever it is that you wanted. And I was going to let you vote. I was going to put some of the items that got the most attention through social media and let you guys vote on which ones that you wanted to have the pattern and have some instruction on how to design for yourself. And of course, in the interim, create your own instructions, because that's of course something that has held me back from actually doing my patterns commercially, is because of not having the time and nor the inclination of feeling like I should be selling this stuff. I really feel like I should be giving it away, because I've learned so much. And it's really not necessary for me to sell it. That's just not how I'm motivated to doing this. So moving on from there, I was strongly considering downsizing the selling portion to just shoes, as I work with you guys on helping you to construct the garments from the patterns after allowing you access to them online, uploading them to a file storage area and giving you the link so that you could be able to download them. So as I was making this move, as I mentioned, I'm constantly evolving rather quickly. to the point that with all the hiccups and all of the dry spells that has gone on with these movers, I've come to the conclusion that maybe God is trying to talk to me. He's trying to speak to me because I don't feel close to those items anymore. And we're not just talking about fabric, but I have to speak about the fabric and the materials for the dolls and the creating, because they make up a more than 50% of the freight. And I don't want you guys to think that you're going to be the only one that's going to be possibly making a sacrifice. I too am going to be making a sacrifice. There's a lot of goods in there that have a meaning to me personally. However, again, they're just things. And I don't think that someone in the world who contracts with you to provide a specific service should extort from you based upon what they feel those items mean to you. So in other words, if you make a contract with someone to transport your goods and services across state lines for a certain amount of money based on a certain amount of space, and you underestimate that space, you don't put that weight on the customer or the consumer. You yourself, the seller, must eat that cost as a learning lesson for you not doing your due diligence. Case in point, aside from the fact that I create doll clothes, doll shoes, doll jewelry, I also am a graphic designer. I learned graphics and honed my graphic skills in high school when I was removed from the population of taking up fashion to commercial art. So I got really heavily into design and lettering and all that good stuff. So anyway, through technology, I became a designer of labels. So not only do I create and craft my doll clothes and doll jewelry, etc., I also make other accessories as well as the labels that go in the doll's garments. Now, in doing so, it caught the attention of some other crafters and creators. And one in particular out of the DC area saw my designs and commissioned me to create labels for her. I did them for her. We worked with a specific size for her dolls, and later she couldn't find me because I rebranded my Instagram channel. But of course, once she found me again, she asked me to do another commission. And instead of me asking her, which I should have done, where would you like your lettering positioned? Do you want it up? Do you want it down? Do you want it off to the right, off to the left, etc., etc.? These are questions that I should have asked, because these are the kind of questions that a person who is making a purchase from you needs to know, because it has an effect on how their name, their logo is positioned. I didn't do that. And I didn't do it with intent. I did it because I forgot. It had been a couple of years past since I had done the labels, and my goal was to get the labels done, especially with the newer technology that I had acquired, and get them off to her as fast as possible, because she had a date, a deadline that she needed them by, and I was really working towards that date. With that said, she received her order, and she immediately reached out to me on Instagram, and she mentioned that there was an issue with the positioning of her logo, where the lettering fell and why it was different than before. And it immediately dinged on me, you know what? You didn't ask her where she wanted it positioned. Even if I was repeating from the top of my head or going back looking at her previous, I should have still asked her where she wanted it positioned. That was something that I just didn't do. And as a result, I ate the cost of the reprint. I didn't make her pay for it. I didn't try to accuse her of not telling me where it was supposed to be. I did not run out on my responsibility to provide that service and do it respectfully, efficiently, and effectively. Our reputation out here as sellers, as hobbyists, whatever we choose to call ourselves, you don't get to mooch or extort from a customer because you don't do what you're supposed to do. And this issue that I am having with this moving company by the name of AONTime, which is not a mover, essentially. They are a broker. They contract movers. Why are you contracting movers based upon a system that you have no knowledge of? You are selling services, so basically you have no idea what the flat means, what the crate means, what the measurement looks like, how it's wrapped. You have a very general knowledge, and you think that you are doing something important because you are providing a service, but you really aren't, because you don't even know you don't know the technical side from the service in which you are contracting people out to. You, as a contractor or a broker, you need to know and be able to speak the same language as the people that you are making contracts to. And as the consumer or customer who has no knowledge and background in how these things are measured in cubits or flats or pallets or whatever, you need to be knowledgeable enough to be able to explain these things to them so that they know exactly what they're getting into. You know, people are entrusting you with their most valuable goods and possessions, and you just should not be in a business projecting integrity, knowing full well that you are underestimating, which means now this person is at a deadline. So now they're depending on someone who is now the mover to make an adjustment, give them a new reassessment. The cost keeps going up. They pick up your things. They decide, you know what? We want to add a little bit more because now this new contractor says you fall outside of their parameters. And now they're trying to estimate more cost. Now, the amount in which I was supposed to pay, the balance, is $975. I have already given them $631.33. So I don't owe you $975. Excuse me if I said anything different. It's $975. I've already paid you $631.33. So I don't really owe you the $631.33 as the 50-50 split. It's actually considerably less. And basically what I was going on was the original contract was to put the down payment down of what, $971, I believe it was, something around there, just fell under $1,000. And then the balance would be 50-50, 50%, first 50% on the pickup, the second 50% or the remaining balance by bank certified check or money order at the drop off at your final destination. But this idea of trying to change and rewrite and recompose and reconfigure in order to extract more is just not something that I'm going to entertain. And the unfortunate thing about this trilogy, starting with AONTime, Carefree, who picked it up, and now this final destination service who is going to bring me, or supposed to be bringing me, my goods, is that they're all obviously a part of the same fruit of a poison tree. It doesn't matter whether or not people are licensed or not. There are plenty of people who are licensed to do many jobs, but they do not do them with integrity. And there are two components, as I mentioned, that are going on here. The one component is me spiritually moving on from the dead weight or the potential dead weight, based upon the fact that they have pretty much cursed this entire project by hijacking my goods. Tells me that maybe I need to reconsider whether or not God is trying to speak to me through this entire experience. And then there's the second component. I have to make sure that other people do not encounter the same situation, because you may be a person who needs your goods and services. You have trusted people with very precious items, and you need those items to arrive to their destination as promised. They will be a part of an ecosystem of movers potentially, and you may run into one of them. And I certainly do not want to hold back based upon my pride or my fear of being embarrassed because I was made a fool. Who cares about that? Every day we are made and played the fool, and it is important that we understand that this has nothing to do with us and our ignorance of the innards and outards and the ways in which the devil conspires against those running after God. What we do have to understand, though, is that in all things, we should count it all joy. And when I say that, I'm not being perfunctory. I am saying that even when we are losing, we are supposed to learn something from it and teach someone something. So it is my responsibility as a believer, as someone who is on fire for God, who is running and chasing after God, is that I communicate to you that I do not allow the devil to think that he's going to embarrass me and shame me into not sharing with you what I have learned about these three entities. They are not very forthcoming about who they are. Each and every one and each leg of this whole contract has misrepresented themselves or has tried to extort more from me. There was a point in time where I couldn't even get them all on the same phone at the same time until I declined to have my goods delivered. Is when now all of a sudden you got representatives flexing their muscles and telling me what I have to do. I don't have to do anything. Just like you don't have to bring me my goods for the amount that you say I owe you, I don't have to accept them. Yeah, you might attribute them to the fact that they mean a whole lot to me, but let's think about it. If I got sick today and I'm unable for whatever reason, my hands, my feet, my eyes, if I lose all of the faculties that allow me and enable me to be able to create, is my worth over? Is my position in this universe over? God has many more ways to bless us, and we should not limit ourselves to the things that we think that bring us comfort. There might be a bigger purpose on the other side of them. Maybe the crafting and the art and all of that. It's not just those limits. There are other ways to create. There are things that I've been doing since I was a child. Before I learned how to sew, I could draw, I could paint. I was in art programs that had absolutely nothing to do with sewing or crafting clothes for dolls. So what I'm saying to you is art and creating food, materials for dolls to wear, etc., etc. None of those things have anything to do what the bigger purpose is and what God has for me and what God has for me to do and provide for his people through me. And no one, no person, or no conspirators of the devil should not be allowed to extort, extract, blackmail someone into paying more based upon what they believe those goods and services are worth to me. I mean, if you allow someone to do that, they get away with doing that. They've stolen from you. And then what's the point? I'd much rather let those goods and services be cursed by them, because which, in my opinion, they have become cursed goods. Which each passing day, or should I say each passing hour, I'm feeling less attached to those things because they feel almost like something that has been corrupted, like a corruptible file. You know, the item is still of some value to you, but it's loaded with viruses. It's loaded with Trojan horses. It's loaded with spamware and adware, and it's no longer clean and pure in the manner in which it was created. So now we're in a situation where we feel like, just let it all go. Just let it go, because at the end of the day, there has to be a greater reason for this to be happening. I mean, and it could happen to anyone, but I want, at least if nothing else, you all to be aware that there are 3 names: AONTime Movers, Carefree Move, as well as Final Destination. They need to be 3 entities that you strongly avoid. And then when you go forward in your search, that you do some things a little bit different. And you know what? In the process of that, we will try to work through some ways and have a discussion about some of the things that you can do to prevent this from happening to yourselves. Because if nothing else, if I have to go through this, I don't think anyone else should.